Ada stood barefoot in the hallway, clutching the bloodied bedsheet as her legs trembled beneath her nightgown. Another one. Another baby gone. The 7th. From the corner of the dim hallway, her mother-in-law Margaret emerged slowly, her silk robe sweeping the floor. "Maybe it's time you accept the Lord didn't bless you with a womb fit for legacy," she said coldly, sipping tea like this was just another morning. Ada stared at her, eyes wild, voice shaking. "You prayed with me last night. You anointed me. You held my hand." Margaret smiled, but it never reached her eyes. "And I will again, if that's what it takes to hide the truth." That was the moment Ada knew something wasn't right in this house. And when she found the old wooden box buried beneath the floorboards of her mother-in-law's room, filled with baby teeth, charred photos, and a wedding veil soaked in dried blood, she realized it had never been a medical problem. Ada believed Margaret was a bitter old woman sabotaging her womb out of jealousy or spiritual manipulation. But the truth unraveled in a single DNA test after Margaret collapsed and was rushed to the hospital. Margaret was not her husband's real mother. She was a guardian, hired after his real mother, Ada's own biological aunt, was murdered in a botched ritual the night of his birth. And the blood sacrifices, they were protection spells, desperate measures to prevent a generational curse from claiming Ada's babies, one by one. The real curse? Ada herself. She had unknowingly inherited a spiritual bloodline marked for infertility unless the union was cleansed. But it was never cleansed, because the one man who could break it was her biological father, and he was the same man Margaret had spent 30 years hiding, because he killed Ada's mother to protect her. The doctors ran the same tests. Again, no physical complications, the OB said, her face too calm for the storm in Ada's chest. No fibroids, no infections, no chromosomal anomalies. Your womb is healthy, Mrs. Okonkwo. I'm sorry, but we can't explain the miscarriages medically. Ada didn't speak. She only nodded, her eyes glazed as she lay in the hospital bed, IV dripping slow reassurance that never reached her heart. Daniel held her hand, but he felt 1,000 miles away, like they both were sinking and he was already drowning in helplessness. This was the 7th time, and the worst part? She remembered the flutter. The baby had kicked 2 nights ago. Hope had bloomed. Now it was just blood and silence again. Margaret didn't come to the hospital. She sent her pastor instead. "Sometimes the enemy hides in plain sight," he told Ada, placing an oily hand on her forehead during a prayer she hadn't asked for. "The womb can be cursed, not by what you do, but by who you are tied to." Who you are tied to. Those words stuck in her mind like a splinter. That night, Ada didn't sleep. She remembered something, a strange dream she'd had before the miscarriage. A woman with no face standing in her mirror whispering, "You don't belong here." When Ada opened her eyes, the full moon poured through the blinds and cast shadows on the floor. And there, just beneath the curtain, were muddy footprints, bare, small, like a child's. Margaret's garden was her pride. Bougainvillea bloomed like fire, and the earth was always soft, like someone tended it at night. No one but Clara was allowed near it. Not even Daniel. But Clara had secrets. One morning, as she weeded beneath the papaya tree, her fingers hit wood. She paused, checked over her shoulder, and gently uncovered a small cloth-wrapped bundle. Inside, an animal skull, wrapped in red thread and pressed with tiny bones. Some human. She dropped it with a stifled scream. That evening, she asked Ada quietly, "Madam, have you ever wondered why you only bleed at night?" Ada blinked. "What are you talking about?" "I hear things," Clara said, lowering her voice. "Sometimes I hear crying from your room before it happens, but not yours." Ada's stomach turned. Later, Clara brought her something hidden in a shoebox, a photograph. It was old and faded, Ada's wedding picture, but scratched on Margaret's face was a symbol, a crude spiral, drawn in blood. Ada wasn't supposed to go into the last room down the hallway. It was always locked. Margaret said it was storage for old church books. But that night, when Margaret went to her night vigil, Ada picked the lock. The air inside was dry and still, like the room hadn't been touched in years. Dozens of old journals lined the shelves, stacks of newspapers with red ink circling obituaries, baby obituaries, And on the wall, Ada's wedding photo again. Except this time, Margaret had torn Ada's face out and burned a black candle where her head had been. At the center of the room was an altar, and on it, a bloodied cotton pad. Fresh. Ada stumbled back, gasping. Something inside her screamed to run, but then she heard it again. A soft cry, high-pitched, like a newborn coming from the corner. But when she turned to look, there was nothing there, just the chill of being watched. The next day, Ada stayed quiet. She made breakfast, smiled, pretended. But inside her, rage had begun to bloom. That afternoon, a man appeared at the gate. He was old, barefoot, and dressed in tattered ankara. His eyes were cloudy, but they held fire. He didn't ask to come in. He just whispered through the bars, "The dead ones are waking." Ada stepped outside. "Who are you?" "I knew your mother," he said. "Not the one you think raised you, the one who birthed you. And I knew Margaret, too." He pulled something from his pocket. A pendant, rusted but shaped like the same spiral carved onto Margaret's altar. "I gave her this. I gave all of them this." Ada's breath caught. "All of who?" He smiled sadly. "The women who kill their daughters to protect their sons." Then he turned and walked away. Ada barely slept. The pendant the old man left burned in her palm like a curse. The spiral matched the symbol in Margaret's forbidden room, but deeper than that, it felt familiar, like something she'd seen long ago. She waited until Daniel was asleep before slipping out of bed and opening her late mother's old jewelry box. She hadn't touched it in years. Among the dusty earrings and broken chains was a locket. She popped it open. Inside, a faded photo of a woman, her real mother, and on the woman's neck, hanging from a chain, was the same spiral pendant. Ada's hands shook. The next day, Ada visited the local records office, pretending to search for land history. Instead, she found something else. Something worse. Daniel's birth certificate. The mother listed wasn't Margaret. It was a woman named Agatha Okwudili, the same name on the back of her mother's locket. Her mother wasn't just connected to Margaret. They were sisters. Clara entered Ada's room late at night, whispering quickly, "She knows you're snooping. She's doing a midnight cleansing." Ada followed her quietly to the garden. From behind the curtain, they watched Margaret kneel, whispering into a shallow hole in the earth. "She does this every time," Clara murmured. "Each time you miscarry." Margaret placed something into the hole, a blood-stained cloth, and poured oil on it before lighting a match. As the flames caught, Ada stepped forward. "What are you burying this time?" Margaret didn't flinch. She stood slowly, her face bathed in firelight. "I'm trying to save you." Ada's voice cracked. "From what?" Margaret looked up at the stars. "From yourself." Ada tore apart her old childhood bedroom in frustration. She didn't know what she was searching for until her fingernail caught on a crack in the plaster behind her wardrobe. Inside the hollow, a folded letter. Fragile, handwritten. It was addressed to Agatha Okwudili, from her sister. "You said you'd protect the bloodline, Margaret. You said our girls would never bear this curse. But Daniel married mine, and now she's bleeding. You broke the pact. You let her forget who she is. If she dies, it's on your head." Ada sank to the floor, breath gone. She didn't just marry into this family. She was this family. And someone had lied about everything. Daniel was becoming distant. Ada confronted him. "Do you know who your real mother is?" He blinked. "What? I saw your birth certificate. Margaret isn't—" "She raised me," he cut in. "She is my mother." "She was my aunt," Ada shouted. "Do you understand what that means? This blood curse. It's in both of us." He looked at her like she was mad. "There's no curse, Ada. There's just trauma, grief. You need help." Ada stared at him stunned. "You think I'm imagining this?" He hesitated. That was all the answer she needed. And for the first time since they married, Ada wondered if she was alone in more ways than one. That night, Ada avoided Daniel and crept into the forbidden room again. She lit the candle herself this time, stared into the mirror above the altar. Then the crying began. Soft, infant-like, closer. The mirror darkened, her reflection twisted. And suddenly, it wasn't her reflection at all. It was her mother, Agatha. Her mouth moved. Ada leaned closer. "Say it, please. Tell me what this is." And the whisper came, "Your womb will never stay full until the blood is repaid." The mirror shattered. Ada fell back, sliced by a flying shard. And on her chest, where the glass had struck, was a small, curling, spiral-shaped wound. Ada returned to the hospital where her first miscarriage occurred. The staff had changed, but the receptionist recognized her name. "There was one nurse who stayed with you the entire night back then," she offered. "Retired now, said she'd never forget you." With effort, Ada tracked her down, a soft-spoken elderly midwife named Mama Eniola. When Ada showed her the spiral pendant, Mama Eniola's eyes widened. "I've seen this before," she whispered, "but not since your mother, not since Agatha." Ada froze. "You knew her?" The midwife nodded slowly. "I helped deliver her child. You?" Ada's heart stopped. "My mother died right after my birth." "No," the woman said, voice trembling. "She didn't die. She disappeared." Mama Eniola invited Ada inside her small bungalow filled with relics, charms, and dried herbs. "There is a covenant," she began, "between 3 sisters, Agatha, Margaret, and another who died young. Their family was cursed for betraying a priestess long ago. The girls were told only the sons would thrive. The daughters must never bear fruit, or chaos would awaken." Ada gripped the armrest tightly. "So I was never supposed to survive?" The old woman leaned forward. "You were meant to die before your first blood, but someone broke that rule." Ada stared at her. "My mother." Mama Eniola nodded. "Agatha ran. She hid you. Margaret found you later and made you forget, but now the curse is restless." Ada whispered, "How do I break it?" The woman's face darkened. "By remembering who you are and confronting the blood you were born from." That night, Ada returned home to find something smoldering on the porch. A chicken, black-feathered, its neck twisted and a spiral carved into its back, lay charred in a ring of ashes and red sand. Warning. From who? Clara? "No," she said slowly. "From Margaret." Daniel looked unconvinced until they noticed smoke drifting from the back garden. The altar, hidden in Margaret's shed, was burning, but no one had set it on fire, and Margaret was gone. They searched all night. Margaret didn't return. The next morning, a letter was found on her bedroom mirror. It was written in red ink and sealed with wax bearing the spiral. "The blood must fall by choice. I've kept you alive, Ada, but every child you lose is a warning. The next one will not leave you. It will take you. Break the line or pay the price. Don't look for me." Margaret Ada tore the letter in half. "No more riddles," she said, but deep down, a cold truth sank in her bones. Margaret hadn't fled. She was preparing for something, and Ada was running out of time. Clara brought her to a hidden shed behind the estate, one Margaret had forbidden even her from cleaning. Inside was a table covered in bones, herbs, blood-soaked cloths, and pages ripped from an old family Bible. Ada found her name written in bold black ink beside a long list of dead children. Next to it, written shakily, "Final vessel, twin inside womb." She gasped. "Twin?" she whispered. Clara stared at her stomach, eyes wide. "You're pregnant again?" Ada hadn't told anyone. She had barely accepted it herself. Clara's lips trembled. "Then you're not just running out of time." She grabbed Ada's wrist. "You're running out of chances." Ada sat across from Daniel in the quiet kitchen. The early morning light filtered through the curtains, but nothing felt warm. "I need you to be honest," she said, hand on her belly. "Do you believe me now?" Daniel looked pale. He'd barely slept since Margaret vanished. "I don't know what to believe," he admitted. "But I remember something. When I was little." Ada leaned forward. "One night," he continued, "I woke up and followed Mom into the garden. She was crying, holding a white cloth. There was blood on it." He looked at her, voice cracking. "She buried it under the bougainvillea and whispered my name over and over." Ada swallowed. "She's been doing this your whole life, tying your survival to blood sacrifices." Daniel stood. "That's madness." "Then explain this." She placed Margaret's burnt letter on the table. Daniel's hands trembled. "If she's been protecting us from something..." Ada looked him in the eye. Then what happens if she's gone? Mama Eniola sent word to Ada through a street child, an urgent message wrapped in a torn prayer book. Go to the Market of Ashes. Look for the man who drinks dust. He holds the truth. The Market of Ashes was a place Ada had only heard of in whispers. Underground, illegal, spiritual. There, among bones, beads, and whispered chants, Ada met a man with gray eyes and no teeth who introduced himself as Malachi. You walk with twins in your womb, he said without asking. One alive, one already claimed. Ada froze. How do I stop it? He laughed, spraying dust. You don't stop a curse, you replace it. With what? He handed her a small jar filled with black feathers and ash. With blood not your own. Ada stood at the edge of the estate garden, jar in hand, hands shaking. She remembered Margaret's words. The next one will not leave you. It will take you. She was willing to give anything, except a life. She poured the jar's contents into the same spot Margaret always dug, whispered a prayer, burned her own hair, and nothing happened. That night, she bled again. But this time, only a little. Not a miscarriage, a warning. The curse was getting stronger, and it was no longer targeting her. It was growing inside her child. Just past midnight, the front gate clanged open. Daniel ran to the window. It's her. Margaret stepped through the courtyard slowly, barefoot, her robe soaked and muddy. She looked thinner, wilder, but her eyes were sharp. Ada met her at the door. You disappeared for days. Margaret smiled faintly. Because I had to find him. Who? The one who started all of this. From behind her stepped an elderly man with a limp and one blind eye. His presence sucked the air from the room. This is your grandfather, Margaret said. He's the last living priest of the bloodline. And he had come to choose who would die. The man's name was Papa Kalechi. His voice rasped like old paper. You carry twins. One of light, one of shadow. The womb is not cursed. It is a gate. Ada felt her knees weaken. So what do I do? He laid a gnarled hand on her stomach. You must choose which child lives. Daniel's eyes widened. That's insane. She's not choosing. Papa Kalechi didn't blink. One will be born to heal, the other to destroy. He looked at Ada. But if you try to keep both, you will not survive. And in that moment, Ada realized something devastating. This curse wasn't about death. It was about choice. And now, she had none left to run from. Ada fell into a deep sleep that night, drugged by exhaustion, terror, and the rhythmic patter of Lagos rain. In her dream, she stood in a nursery. 2 white cribs sat opposite each other. In one, a baby with eyes like Daniel's smiled up at her. In the other, a child sat motionless, cloaked in shadows. She approached the smiling one first, touched his tiny hand. The shadow child turned its head, and its voice was not a baby's. You can't kill me, it whispered. I was born the moment your bloodline broke its promise. Ada stumbled back. From the shadows, her mother appeared. Agatha, I tried to save you, she whispered, but now you must choose what I could not. When Ada awoke, both hands were on her stomach. She felt movement, 2 kicks, one strong, one uneven. Clara noticed it first. A dark spiral was forming beneath Ada's skin, low on her belly, faint like a bruise. Each day it grew deeper, darker. It's branding you, Clara said, voice trembling, preparing your body for one to pass and one to stay. Ada covered the mark with a scarf, but her nightmares grew worse. Every night she saw her own children, and every night one child bled while the other watched. Margaret, strangely calm, began lighting candles around the house, muttering prayers Ada had never heard. Daniel, desperate, drove to churches, prophets, even herbalists. But none could offer real answers. Only Papa Kalechi watched silently, waiting for the day Ada would beg him to finish what he started. But Ada was done begging. She was going to fight. The mirrors in the house had been covered for days. But on the morning of the 3rd week, Ada caught her own reflection in a hand mirror Clara left behind. Except it wasn't her. It was a girl. Young, no older than 10, with Ada's eyes, her nose. But her smile was sharp, twisted, not innocent. Ada dropped the mirror. The reflection didn't. It watched her from the shards on the ground and whispered, "If you give me to him, I'll save you." Ada froze. Give you to who? But the mirror was empty again, and her scar had grown darker. Margaret finally sat down across from Ada. No scripture, no passive-aggressive comments, just silence between them until Margaret finally said, "He told you, didn't he?" Ada nodded. "About choosing?" Margaret took a slow breath. "I've done this before." Ada stared at her. "My firstborn were twins too, girls. One was born dead, or so I thought, but Papa Kelechi saved her, for a price." Ada's heart pounded. "What price?" Margaret's hands trembled. "My voice," Ada gasped. "I never truly spoke again after that night. Not to God, not to myself." And then Margaret did something Ada never expected. She wept, because this time she didn't know who would be taken. Papa Kelechi summoned them all at dawn. Ada, Daniel, Margaret, and Clara. They sat in a circle, candles lit, salt lining the floor. He asked Ada to name the twins. "Names give spirits form," he said. She hesitated, then whispered, "Ayo and Ara." "Joy and thunder." Papa Kelechi nodded. "One name will echo forever. One will fade before sunrise." Ada felt something shift in the air, like time itself had tilted. The candles burned blue, and then Papa Kelechi smiled. "You won't have to choose." Ada blinked. "Why?" "Because one of them has already chosen you." And then the floor beneath them cracked. The ritual had begun. The crack in the floor widened, salt scattered. The candle flames shot upward like flares. Ada screamed as a wind rose from below, shrieking with voices, infant cries, whispering women, and a deep chant in a language none of them understood. Daniel grabbed her arm, trying to pull her away, but Papa Kelechi raised a hand. "Do not break the circle. They've come to choose." From the crack, mist poured out. It formed a cloud above the room, taking shape. 2 children, spirit forms, one glowing, gentle, and golden, the other black-eyed and silent, watching. Then a third figure appeared behind them. Agatha. Ada clutched her belly. "Mother?" But Agatha said nothing. She only pointed at Margaret. And Margaret's mouth opened in a silent scream. No sound, no words, just a howl ripped from her soul. The spirit of the shadow twin turned toward Ada and whispered, "I choose her." After the ritual, Ada collapsed. The crack sealed, but the room felt wrong, too still. Papa Kelechi sat in a trance, unmoving. Margaret had vanished again, and on Ada's belly the spiral scar had transformed. It no longer looked like a mark of death. It looked like a sigil of binding. Daniel watched over her through the night. He placed his hand on her womb. "Are they still both in there?" Ada nodded. "But one's growing faster." She could feel it. Ayo, the light was small, fluttering like a candle, but Ara was powerful, heavy, shifting inside her like he already knew the world, and he wanted out, the echo room. Clara woke Ada at 3 a.m. "Come, you need to see this." In the hallway, every mirror, previously covered, was bare, all of them fogged, all of them humming softly as if alive. Clara handed Ada an old recorder. "I found it behind Margaret's altar. Listen." Ada hit play. It was a prayer. Margaret's voice, clearer than Ada had ever heard it. "Lord, let me bury what I did. Let her never know the child survived. Let the womb never open until the price is fully paid." Ada's heart stopped. "She wasn't talking about me," she whispered. "She was talking about her own child." Clara looked at her. "What if Ara isn't yours?" Ada blinked. "What if he's hers?" Ada demanded answers from Papa Kelechi, but the old man wouldn't speak. His eyes stayed closed, lips moving in silent prayers. So she returned to Mama Eniola, the retired midwife. "I need the truth," Ada begged. "About Margaret, about the child she lost." Mama Eniola's hands trembled. She didn't lose a child. She gave him up. Born of ritual, meant to bind the curse, but he lived. Ada swallowed hard. Then where is he now? The woman hesitated, then handed Ada a photograph, faded and burned at the edges. A boy, eyes dark, familiar. Ada gasped. Because the boy was Daniel. Ada confronted Daniel with the photo. His face went pale. "Where did you get this?" "Is it true?" she demanded. Are you the child Margaret gave up? The cursed child? He shook his head, then nodded slowly. I've always known I wasn't her biological son, but I didn't know about the ritual. Ada backed away. You married me, knowing we were blood? He stepped forward. We're not siblings, Ada. The blood link is spiritual. I didn't believe it mattered until the miscarriages. She felt sick, cold, betrayed. And now I'm carrying your twin, she whispered, the one she buried. Daniel looked stunned, and then horrified, because suddenly, from behind them, came a knock on the nursery door, and no one was supposed to be inside. The knock came again, soft, rhythmic, like a child playing. Daniel stepped toward the nursery slowly, one hand extended. Ada followed behind him, her heart pounding. He turned the knob. The door swung open, revealing nothing but dim light and a rocking chair that creaked by itself. Except, the mobile above the crib was spinning violently, and the name ARA was scratched into the wall in black crayon. Daniel stepped back, voice tight. We don't have any crayons in this room. Ada walked to the crib trembling. I never told anyone his name. Then she heard it, a soft voice, from under the crib. I'm already born. They sealed the nursery and searched the house, every room, every cupboard, every inch. Then Clara remembered something. There's a sealed room beneath the staircase. Margaret used to take long calls there, always locked. They found it behind a bookshelf. Daniel forced it open. Inside, a shrine, but this one was different, more refined. Candles in perfect circles, dried blood in jars, dolls with spiral carvings, and at the center, an old leather-bound book of names. Ada opened it. Every page had two names, always twins, one circled, one crossed out. On the last page, Ada crossed out, ARA, circled. She gasped. I was the one who was supposed to die. That night, Margaret returned. Her eyes sunken, her voice almost gone. You've opened the book. Ada stepped forward. Is it true? I was supposed to die as a child? Margaret didn't deny it. I tried to save you, but breaking the pact broke the balance. That's why your womb keeps bleeding. It's correcting what I interfered with. Daniel demanded, what about me? Am I cursed too? Margaret's voice trembled. You're not cursed. You're the anchor. What does that mean? She looked at Ada. If Ara stays, Daniel dies. Ada's scream echoed through the walls. Ada began to see Ara even when her eyes were closed, in reflections, in shadows, in her dreams. The baby would sit in her arms, looking up at her with deep, ageless eyes. He never cried, never blinked. He only watched. Ayo, the second twin, had faded from her dreams entirely. Then during a prenatal scan, the doctor gasped. What's wrong? Ada asked. There's only one heartbeat now. Her chest shattered. Which one? The doctor couldn't say, but Ada knew Ara had taken over, and Ayo was gone. Ada returned to Papa Kalechi for the last time. I want it out, she said. I want Ara gone. Papa Kalechi shook his head. It is too late for that. Then what do I do? He handed her a blade, black metal, curved, humming with energy. On the night of birth, you will have one moment, one strike. Ada clenched the blade. What if I can't do it? Papa Kalechi met her gaze. Then your husband dies, and Ara walks this world not as a child. He leaned in, but as a god. The sky turned red the night Ada's labor began. Not a shade of crimson from sunset, but a dark, bruised scarlet, unnatural. The clouds rolled like waves, and thunder cracked without lightning. Lagos itself seemed to go still. Daniel drove through empty streets, gripping the wheel, Ada screaming in the passenger seat. The baby moved like it was tearing its way out. It's not time, Ada panted. It's too early. No, Daniel said, voice tight. He's choosing the time now. The hospital was shut down, a power outage, no staff. And then, on the road, they saw her, Margaret, standing in the middle of the street in a white wrapper, arms raised to the sky. You must deliver in blood, she said. Ada clutched her belly. She was going to give birth, but not in a hospital. In the house where it all began, they laid Ada on the floor of the forbidden room. The altar was gone, the symbols scrubbed clean, but the air still pulsed with something ancient, Clara boiled water. Daniel held Ada's hand, his face ghost pale. Margaret stood in a corner, whispering under her breath. Papa Kelechi appeared as if summoned, cloaked, barefooted, face painted with ash. He placed the black blade beside Ada. "When the time comes," he whispered, "cut the cord, or cut the child." Ada wept through the pain. The contractions were endless. Her body shook, her soul felt stretched. And then she pushed, and silence fell. No cry, no breath, only breathing from the walls. Then came a voice, Ara's. "Thank you for opening the door." A child emerged, but not crying. Calm, eyes open, unblinking, watching. His skin was grayish, his hands too long. His umbilical cord pulsed black. Ada was frozen. Every instinct screamed run, but her body was too weak. Daniel moved to cut the cord, but the blade flung itself across the room. Ara giggled, then whispered his first word, "Mine." And Margaret collapsed to the floor, lifeless. Papa Kelechi fell to his knees. The wrong twin lived. Clara screamed and fled. Daniel grabbed the blade, trembling. But when he turned to strike, he saw Ada, smiling, her eyes no longer her own. Daniel backed away slowly. "Ada?" She stood, though she shouldn't have had the strength. Blood still streamed down her legs, but her hands moved fluidly, like puppets. "Ara doesn't want to leave," she said. "And he's not in the baby." Daniel whispered, "What?" "He's in me." The real Ada, her voice, cried out from inside. "Kill me, Daniel. Please, before he becomes permanent." Papa Kelechi raised the blade, but it flew from his grip, smashed into the wall, cracked open the floor. The spiral reappeared, glowing beneath Ada's feet. Daniel had one chance. He lunged. The blade found its mark, not Ada's heart, but the spiral mark on her belly. A scream erupted, not hers, not Daniel's, not the child's. Something ancient. The wind howled through the room. The candles exploded. The mirrors shattered. And Ara, now fully formed, was pulled from Ada's body like a thread being unraveled from a tapestry. He twisted, shrieked, reached for Ada's soul. But Papa Kelechi chanted loudly, binding him into the spiral with fire and salt. Then, darkness. When Ada awoke, she was in bed, alive. Beside her lay a baby boy, breathing, crying, whole. And on his wrist, a faint spiral, burnt into the skin, a warning. The house was quiet now. The nursery, once filled with tension, now glowed softly with lullabies and baby powder. Ada rocked her newborn, Ayo, in her arms, humming a tune her mother used to sing. There was no sign of Ara, not in dreams, not in shadows. Daniel had taken a leave from work, spending each day by Ada's side. They spoke less, not because of distance, but because too many words had already been said. The spiral mark on Ayo's wrist had faded slightly, but it hadn't disappeared. They didn't talk about it. Ada went to the old compound with Clara, only to find Papa Kelechi's hut burned to the ground. The land around it was salted, dead. A small jar sat in the center of the ruins. Inside, ashes, black, with a single spiral coin buried inside. Clara whispered, "He used the last of his power to seal Ara inside the ritual floor." Ada frowned. "Then why do I still feel him?" Clara said nothing, but the trees around them rustled with no wind. Ayo's favorite toy was a small stuffed lion. One morning, Ada walked into the nursery and found it facing the wrong direction, toward the mirror. She reached down to pick it up and froze. A whisper came from the mirror. Soft, gentle, "Mommy." Ayo was fast asleep in his crib. Ada spun nothing there. But on the toy's chest, a faint spiral had formed in the stitching. She dropped it. The spiral returns. That night, Ada bled again. No pain, no reason. But when she checked the mirror, she saw herself, holding two children, one smiling, one with his back turned, and her reflection whispered, "You chose wrong." Margaret's body had never decayed. She lay in the family mausoleum, untouched, as though sleeping. The priest refused to bless her. No one showed up to the burial but Ada, Daniel, and Clara. When they lowered her into the ground, a tremor shook the earth. And on the tombstone overnight, a spiral etched itself, this time in reverse. At 7 months, Ayo spoke. His first word was "Mama," but his second word, muttered during a stormy night, shook Ada to the core. He looked at the mirror, lifted one finger, and said, "Aura." Ada found it in Margaret's old desk, a locked drawer she'd never noticed before. Inside was a journal. Each page chronicled not only Ada's miscarriages, but also dreams, whispers, and shadows Margaret claimed only she could see. In the final entry, scrawled in ink, "If she survives, tell her she's not the last gate. Tell her to never have another child." It happened by accident. Ada wept when the test turned positive. Daniel held her. "We'll do everything right this time." But she couldn't sleep. Every night, Ara appeared in her dreams. This time, not as a child, but as a man. "You gave my name to the wrong boy," he whispered, "but the next one will be mine." Clara took Ada to a secluded shrine, her grandmother's land. "I know what Ara is," she confessed. "He's not a spirit. He's a hunger, passed through blood, fed through choice." She handed Ada a pendant. "If you want to protect the second child, you'll have to give Ara something else." Ada asked, "What?" Clara smiled and stepped into the flames. Her screams split the sky, and the spiral mark on Ada's belly vanished. Years passed. Ayo grew strong, brilliant, and kind. Ada never had another child. The second pregnancy faded, mysteriously gone during a quiet sleep. They never spoke of Ara again. But sometimes, when the lights flicker, when the wind howls with no reason, when Ayo stands still and listens too long to the dark, Ada wonders, did she beat the curse? Or did she just buy time? Because the blood that wouldn't stay was still watching, from behind the mirror, waiting.